to get to this point. And so it's a joint effort. I think that you'll hear from Dr. Baldessari, Ms. Young, and Mr. Alcanada. Getting up to speed, the Woburn Public Schools has had 4 days of in-person learning, 4 successful days of in-person learning. And I feel really proud of the work that's happened to get to this point. It has not been without a couple of hiccups. I'll speak to those as well. But before I go much further, one of the things that I want to share publicly with people that may be listening at home is that since the last school committee meeting, we've been able to, I've spoken to Mayor Scott Galvin. We have 555 HEPA air filters ordered and en route. Some are en route, so what that means is that every classroom in the city of Woburn will have a HEPA air filter hopefully in the very near future. So I just wanted to say that and to say thank you to the mayor for supporting that for our students and staff. And so before I go further into this presentation, so.
Thank you. On behalf of the school committee, I want to thank Mayor Galvin as well for collaborating with the school district to, add better filtration to our classrooms. Thank you, Dr. Crowley.
Sure. So that being said, let me delve into the leadership retreat. So at the retreat are all the principals, assistant principals, coordinators, the assistant superintendents, the directors, and so the retreat was held at the Hellenic Center, which is on the back of the Greek church in Woburn. It's a great space. It served our purposes very, very well. They were very accommodating to us. And part of the reason to go there, as opposed to one of our buildings, is it gets us off-site and thinking just slightly differently. And so at the retreat, one of the things that we thought about over the summer and actually last spring is most administrators, most teachers, most everybody, by June 25th, when we finished the school year, was exhausted, and we wanted to kind of reset and regroup, and spend time together, and we did. One of the things that was a priority is social emotional health, not only for students, but for staff and for ourselves, right? We're still in the middle of a pandemic. We may not want to be, but we are, and we need to make sure that we're taking time to take care of ourselves. And so we'll talk a little bit about what that looked like. Also, one of the things that we found important to bring out at the retreat, we read a book called Meeting Wise, and we'll talk more specifically about that. But every time we have meetings, there's a certain cost affiliated with it, but also we want to make sure that they're focused and action-oriented. So we have a new way of thinking about our meetings district-wide. Race, equity, diversity, inclusion. It's called the READY Initiative. I'm borrowing that from the Mass Association of School Superintendents. That's an initiative statewide rather, from MASS. We did some work surrounding that initiative. And then we also circled back to our strategic plan, which is now 3+ years old. And it needs to be looked at, updated, and revised. One of the things that we were very conscious of during this time, I think we had 40+ people in the room at various times, was not having people sitting with the same people every single day and mixing up groups. So the middle school, naturally you're not going to be surprised, but Tom and Carl sit together, right? And so which is great. I'm glad that they're collaborative, but it's kind of nice to see. Carl's speaking to Bridget Kent on an issue surrounding education, for example. So we really tried to make an effort to mix people up every day so that people were having conversations and getting to know each other in different ways. That being said, here's a picture of the Hellenic Center. You can see Rob Nickerson and Dave Dunkley pondering deep thoughts right there. But in the background, I don't think you necessarily can see it, but Ken Casares is leading a discussion. I think that's you, Mike.
Dr. B, yeah.
Dr. Baldessari. I'm not sure who these folks
That looks
Matthew.
like, yeah, and Marissa.
Oh,
Matthew,
Jack, huh?
Comments, and Marissa.
Yeah.
And so, again, and then there's Ms. Young standing up. lecturing at.
Yeah, I'm ordering somebody around.
Ordering someone around.
Looks like you're yelling at the fireplace.
Well, I think Ernie was next to me.
It looks like Steve Martin is rapt attention.
Yes.
But again, you can see that the idea behind this was just to get groups of people talking to each other, and it was done deliberately. That being said, one of the things, an activity that we did, it's sort of like musical chairs, and we call it a passport activity, where this was a blank piece of paper. We created this. This is, we should probably trademark this. But everybody got the same piece of paper. And Mike, you want to talk about this activity?
Okay.
So, like, no.
You want to do getting to know you with new people, and you also want to learn a little bit about your colleagues aside from just, their ways of work. So we found this passport activity, and the way it is you get this blank piece of paper, and then I had my speaker, and I put on music. So when the music goes on, you're supposed to dance. So I was dancing. Some people were not dancing, but I was dancing. And while you're dancing, you just keep taking paper from people and handing it to others. So I take a piece of paper from you, hand it to this person, right? And then when the music stops, whoever piece of paper you have in your hand, you have to get into a dialogue with them to answer these things. What are your favorites, your books, your strengths, your quotes, your hopes, your dreams? And then at the final activity is somebody actually draws a picture of you based on all of those things. So imagine like Matt. I have Matt's paper. Courtney has mine. Ellen has Bob's. You know what I'm saying? So I have to talk to Courtney, and somebody has to talk to me. So it was really nice and loud, and everybody was really engaging with one another in meaningful dialogue and conversations.
The funniest
Go ahead.
is I'm glad we're not artists.
Oh, my gosh.
Because, there was some, people were writing apology notes to
Yes.
us about, like, I'm so sorry. Like,
Tom wrote an apology note to somebody because the picture was hysterical. But we couldn't put it on here because it's a colleague's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
But
I have curious to make fun of that. Yeah.
So it was. This was an example of kind of team building, soft team building that we did. It was fun and
It's a good way to start.
the drawing was the last day, and that was people were hysterical just drawing.
Everybody got their passport. Carrie Carpenter put them in a frame.
Yeah.
So everybody has a framed passport from the event.
Right. Yeah. So, the first I talked quickly about SEL, but I think Dr. Baldessari, you want to talk about it?
So we thought it was really important to have the first presenter be focused on the wellness of our administrative team because they had been through a lot last year. So we brought in Christopher Willard. He's a professor at Harvard Medical School, and he's a clinical psychologist who's written 19 books on mindfulness and really taking care of yourself. So Dr. Willard provided a 2-hour presentation really about the benefits of living in the moment, connecting with people and having relationships, eating healthy, and exercise, because those things are really important for our administrators to do to keep them at their very best. And what you'll find at the bottom of many of these slides is the feedback that we received from the administrators who filled out a survey at the end. So when you look through your slides there, we're not going to read them to you. You can see what the folks who were present at the training had to, what they thought of the training.
And the same first day was meeting-wise with Kathy Boudet.
Sure. We were initially introduced to this strategy in the tail end of the school year when Dr. Crowley, the assistant superintendents, and a couple of others in the administration team met privately with Dr. Boudet and got to know the meeting-wise concept. And then at the administration leadership, this was launched to the larger group. And it has provided us a structure to become more efficient, action-oriented, and ensure participation by all attendees. And we have introduced this structure, as I indicated, immediately, and we are using the meeting-wise strategies for our meetings this year, so that we will, as I said, be more effective, efficient, and use our time wisely.
Great. So Dr. Crowley discussed the Ready Initiative, and that this was certainly kind of the launching point of that, something that we will be working on throughout and over the course of this year. We're fortunate to be working with Dr. Ken-Ann McKenzie, who's the director of the Aspire Institute at Wheelock College. And we read over the summer the Unconscious Bias in Schools book, and Dr. McKenzie worked with us with that for a full day, and she'll be coming back and doing that work with us a continued 8 times over the course of this year. And so we look forward to working with her.
And on day 3, one of the things that we spent time doing, again in groups, was looking at our strategic plan. We had asked administrators that had been here for more than a year to come with some of their highlights so that they could be grouped and share some of the highlights over the past few years together to celebrate the success that we've had. But then we then broke into the World Cafe model, again, which we used three and a half years ago, which allows for people to have conversations with each other and then move from table to table. And I'm going to, hopefully this pops up. Yeah. So let me be more specific. So how this works is each round is 30 minutes. In this case, table 1, I was the host, and Dave Dunkley, Kevin Battle, Rob Nickerson, and Aaron Johnson were at my table. And for the first 30 minutes, the questions that we talked about together: what does equity mean to you, to the school, and to the district? And what skills do you think all students need by the time they graduate elementary, middle, and high school? And so we spent 30 minutes as a group talking about those questions. We scribed it all on those big pieces of paper that now Ms. McLeod has, so we will get the data. That's how we collect data. It's not scientific, but it allows for conversation to happen. And so what we will do is get the data from this group on these questions. And so you'll see this is round 1, session 1, 30 minutes. At 30 minutes, you rotate, so your table changes. The host doesn't change, but the people at your table do, and you have the same question yet again. And so, in this case, you can see I was with Ken Casares, Adriana, and Steve, and so people will people have the ability to hear from each other with the same question, and then potentially build off what they heard in the first round. And so, and then for round 3, again, the tables were structured so you're not with the same people, but the question here had to do with systems and operations or enhancements that could be put into place. So, for example, human resources, technology, finance, facilities, family, community engagement, student services, curriculum instruction, leadership, sports, like sort of like everything, a bucket about how can we, what's missing, what can we do better, and it's not defensive at all. It's a listening process, and again, we're gathering data to help to inform, to update our strategic plan. Our intent with this is to synthesize it. We will have another meeting with this group, I believe in another month or so, I forget the exact date, to share out the findings. This exercise will happen also at the schools, and similar questions will be asked so that all staff have the ability to have a voice in this process. And then similar to what we did the first time through, I'd envision having something in the community probably in the new year, early January, February, to help inform a final product that we would put together by June would be my goal, to have an updated plan. But with an opportunity, as I say, for multiple different stakeholders to have a voice in this process. And so, and I thought, the conversations, and Bob, Courtney, and Mike, you could speak, you facilitate. I thought the conversations were really good and very interesting, because candidly, one of the things that I say this, we missed it. Dave Dunk Facilities was not on that strategic plan. We missed it. And like that, he is, I really have deep, profound respect for Dave and his exact work. But he came to the retreat, and he wants to know what's going on in the schools and how best to support the teaching and learning. And so he committed to being there. And it's hard for him to be there when schools are opening up a few days later. But that was, again, just a time well spent, I felt. So. New teacher orientation happened at the Harold Wyman the following week. That was 3 days of welcoming over 40 new staff to the Woburn Public Schools. Pretty awesome. That doesn't happen all the time. And so I think I'll turn to Courtney. Or
Sure, we can kind of jump all in. So we had new teacher orientation. We had 3 days. We had a lot of staff. So we ended up dividing the staff into 3 different groups for a lot of the time, and they were able to rotate through a lot of different stations. This provided us, as you can see, with kind of all of the topics. We're able to get into a little bit more detail. Staff were able to, in smaller groups, ask questions. And based off of the feedback, which you'll see on some of the slides, people felt like they were able to really get a lot of the answers that they needed, especially in some of the really key important topics at the start of the year. We were able to have a lot of we have a lot of support, especially in the curriculum department, student services, and so all of the coordinators were able to come in and do meet and greets, the chair people within special education. We were able to do UBD refreshers, things like that. The WTA came, as well as the mentor program, and Mike and Bob can jump in as well, but what the picture is here is that Sue Tifo put together an extensive 2-hour trolley tour, in which yes,
That's a trolley.
that's a trolley in the background.
Woburn trolley.
The roof comes off.
Yes, I told them it was a trolley for 2 days, so when they saw the bus pull up, I think they were a little disappointed. But it was great. We actually drove around to all of the schools. All of the principals were able to come on the bus, and so even though some staff who weren't necessarily in those buildings were able to meet every principal in Woburn, as well as you can see, we got out at Horde Pond, at the high school, and staff were able to see our community as well as get a lot of the history. And we ran kind of 2 of those tours, and it was, my legs were a little sore from standing, but it was a great success. So. And just again, Krista Maloney ran a supervision and evaluation session. Jen Judkins did 2 technology sessions. And again, the curriculum department supported a lot of the curriculum sessions. Grab these 2.
Yep. I was happy to join Marissa, our new HR director, Marissa Boyajian, and Jake Donovan from the business office to talk with the new teachers more extensively about the benefits that they can take advantage of, not only health and dental, but to complement their MTRS pension with the 403B. And also we talked a lot about Frontline, which is our absent management system. If they have to take a sick day or a personal day to put in and give the principal or their supervisor enough notice. There were a number of questions in terms of taking college credits to move horizontally that we were able to answer. So it was a nice interaction, not necessarily things that new teachers are thinking about because they're anxious to get into their classroom and teach, but this is an important part of their profession and to their benefit. And I know that special education was there. Maureen Ryan, the director, and her leadership talking about matters pertaining to special education and the special training that goes on there.
As Dr. Crowley was speaking before about the work with the strategic plan, for our new administrators, that was really important because they got, hands-on and conversational opportunities to understand what we value and who we are when they were at the training. And throughout the new teacher orientation, the new faculty and staff were given an understanding of who we are and who we've become, and really helped us to define expectations for them. And so having a presentation from our EL coordinator, our family and community engagement liaison, and our physical and social emotional wellness coordinator, Erin Johnson and Adriana Mendez Sheldon and Kendra Stinson, had really open and honest conversations with the new staff that I think will help them understand who we are in Woburn. The TCIS orientation, we did a 2-hour presentation on 5 factors that build relationships and decrease, those problems that can happen in the classroom. And I did 2 2-hour sessions. So we had half the group was with me, the other half was on the trolley. Trolley?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yes.
When I say trolley, you say woo.
Yeah. It was a trolley.
And then we flipped. And when I was putting their names into I keep a workbook of all the participants in TCI. And at the end of this, I think it's great for the committee to know that over these last couple of years, we've had 350 people participate in TCI training, at some level. And it certainly has and continues to have an impact on what's happening in our schools.
We can go.
And so, running parallel was Jen Judkins to this. She was at the new teacher orientation, but I just wanted to make sure to adequately thank her and her department for the work that she's done over the summer. Over 1,600 Chromebooks went out. You can see that was last week or 2 weeks ago, that the 10th. So we were distributing Chromebooks here all summer.
Yeah.
And so that really, hopefully, the students that grades 6 to 12 should all have a Chromebook, working Chromebook. And it's, again, a tribute to her organization, but also her whole staff. There's new printers at various schools. One of the things that we decided earlier was that at K-5 was to not necessarily do the one-to-one, but to deploy carts at each school, so that and it's easier said than done, because what you're doing is plugging in Chromebooks onto a cart. It's labor intensive, I guess, is what I'm suggesting. Mm-hmm. And so, again, her staff, without any hesitation, has been working virtually around the clock to make this happen. One of the things that I can tell you, since we met as a committee, the staff were asked to submit whether proof of vaccination or proof of vaccination. And so Jen Judkins created a workflow, so you can do it on your phone. You can take a picture of your card, and it's uploaded. It takes less than a minute to do. So amidst all of these things, she's helping assist in these kinds of workflows that, because of COVID, have become a new norm for us. So I wanted just to take a minute and highlight that. Courtney?
I was just going to say, I spoke to Jen earlier. Another big part, and I see it at the bottom there, and I think it's one bullet, but it's really a lot of work, is that all of the elementary librarians, as well as the middle school innovation coach, have been working to genreify all of the collections at all of our elementary libraries. And so they are looking to make it so that the books are more easily accessible, that students can be walking in and finding what they're looking for more quickly. And so that has actually been requiring them to basically recode every book in all of our libraries. And so it's been a tremendous amount of work. And so they've spent a lot of time this summer doing that, as well as into the fall. And the Alta-Vista, Malcolm White, and the Goodyear are the first 3 that they started in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
opening day for staff. So the Tuesday, September 7th, there was a video welcome you might have seen. And then there was the rolling rally that was from the last day of school, June 25th of last year. We just thought that that would be a nice way for new people to see who we are, for better or worse.
They're already in.
And want to thank the Woburn Community Television for putting that together. They've been great partners with us throughout, and I think continue to do that because I know they're still live streaming some sporting events right now for us. So thank you to them. Our keynote, initially we were all going to be together in the auditorium and have a kickoff keynote by Mr. Mirko Chardin. We pivoted about 10 days before the beginning and decided to have it via Zoom and have people go to their schools so that people would feel safe coming back into the workplace. It matters to us that people feel safe doing that. I will tell you that Mr. Chardin, I've been on a lot of Zoom calls. His energy was through the computer.
Yeah.
And so, in a nutshell, he and Katie Novak have written that book on the upper right-hand corner, Equity by Design. It's a best-selling book. I think I'm paraphrasing his life story, but grew up in Boston on the streets and became a founding principal and is now working in a professional development capacity for Novak Consulting. And so his story was very powerful about never, ever, ever giving up on any kid. And I thought that was a great message to send right the first day. And so there was also some other professional development that occurred on day 1 and 2. So,
we were able to visit principal staff meetings around all the different buildings. I was able to see Miss Maloney at the Harold Wyman doing an amazing race around her building for her staff to learn everything from the beginning of the year, so it was pretty fun. And then on the second day, staff worked in departments. We brought in a lot of different presenters. We had better lessons working with our math department on student-centered learning, and we also had departments who were able to work together on curriculum alignment, so it was a great time for people to get themselves organized for the year.
ultimately the stars of the show. That's why we're doing all this. September 9th. I was nervous, I will tell you, on September 8th, looking at the weather forecast, because it looked like the first day of school was going to be a washout. And not only do you have kids standing waiting for buses, but then parents want to drop their students off and so forth. And so, knock on wood, it cleared up just in time, because I can tell you at 4 o'clock it was raining hard. And that being said, the schools got off to a great start. This is the back of the Harold Wyman, for those of you that may not recognize it. Having been there, I'm not sure who was more excited, the kids or the parents about school starting, or the teachers. I mean, there was great energy at all the schools. We could talk about it. We broke up where we were going. It's an exhausting day because there's so much energy, but it's so, all the work that we do all year round, this is the best day of the year. So at the high school, Jess Callahan was out directing traffic on the first day of school. I happened to be with Chief Rufo, who was worried that his job was in jeopardy. People are doing anything and everything to ensure a smooth opening. So Bob, I forget where you were. You want to just...
I had the opportunity on the first day of school to be here at the Joyce and to go to the Reeves. And 2 days prior to that, the first day for teachers, I was delighted to be at the Malcolm White and the Goodyear to see everybody and interact as much as I could. So it was a pleasure.
That's awesome.
Yes. Do you want to? I was able to. I went over to North Woburn. I was able to see the Alta Vesta and the Linscott first day, and then I was able to go over and see the Kennedy. And it was great to be able to just see kids back and people excited. So.
Yeah, for me, for the first day for students, I went to the Goodyear, the Shamrock, and Malcolm White. And at the Malcolm White, I had the pleasure of kids coming in and not knowing who their teachers were. And one of the kids, he came over, and I had the sheets, with the names, and he didn't know who his teacher was. And I said, "Okay, what's your name?" He gave me his name, and then I said, told him who his teacher was. And I said, "She's up on the second floor." And he turned around and he just started running. Full sprint. And I was like, "Hey, wait a minute!" And he was gone. Like, he couldn't wait to get up there. And then on the first day for teachers, I was at the Alta Vesta, the Linscott, and the Kennedy, and it was just an interesting dynamic to be with Mr. Wells for his last first day and Miss Riley for her first day. So I got a good picture of Ernie and some good pictures of Linda. And they're different ends of the spectrum, so to speak, for the first day of school. It was great.
Yeah. So I mean, it's funny, and it's great to see kids. I was at the Goodyear on the first day in the kindergarten class, and they're about 20 minutes into their schooling, and the teacher introduces me as Dr. Crowley. The kid raises his hand. Yep. Can I help you? I have a loose tooth. You're a doctor. Anyway, like that kind of it makes it all worthwhile. So
Did you pull it?
I did. Yeah.
You're supposed to twist.
Yeah.
Not full.
So anyway, but it's been again we're on day 4, and so it's been a long haul to get here, particularly because of last year, and we're still in the pandemic, and so I want to spend a couple minutes on some COVID updates as it relates to the Woburn Public Schools, because I don't want to ignore that the priority is the health and safety of all students and staff. And so I asked Mr. Alcanada to kind of put together some data for us. I'll bang through this slide.
Sure.
But I just wanted to point out that we essentially we're opening schools how we close them. So we have desks. We're endeavoring for 3+ feet apart. Windows are open. Kids are outside as much as possible. I mentioned the HEPA filters that will be in every class within a short amount of time. We're trying to have students and take mask breaks, be outside, learn outside. If you're doing group work, it's okay to be outside. And so the morale going around to the schools seems to be very, very good during the course of the day. As of today, the survey that I alluded to earlier, we believe about 95% of all of our staff are fully or partially vaccinated. And so that's a very good percentage. We're still working it out because there may be people that are vaccinated but haven't submitted yet, so we just need to track that down over the course of the week. And current vaccination rates, this came to me from the mayor. You can see the first number is 1 shot, and the second number is 2 shots. So in the city of Woburn, 72% have had 1 shot. And 67% have 2 shots. And then as it breaks down for the 12 and 15-year-olds, it's 67 and 55, and then the 16 to 19, 79 and 70. What I can tell you also is that we are planning another vaccine clinic at the Joyce Kennedy in the high school the last week of September. Hopefully try to get more folks signed up and vaccinated. And so that's a significant push to hopefully help us through the pandemic. So those are just a couple quick current stats as it relates to the schools. But we're still, as I said, in COVID protocol and quarantine. So Mr. Alcanada, here you go.
Sure. The definition, we have new quarantine and testing protocols put out jointly by DESE and the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. The definition of a close contact has not changed, and that is an individual who is within 6 feet of a positive COVID-19 person for at least 15 minutes over a 24-hour period. However, Once you meet that definition, there are 4 exemptions to testing and quarantining. One of them is if you're fully vaccinated and asymptomatic. The other one is if, and I'm using individual because this applies to students and staff. Individual is in the classroom, so long as both individuals are masked and are at least 3 feet apart, you would be exempt. Individuals on buses, there is an exemption because you have to be masked at all times and windows are to be open. And the final exemption is those individuals who have had COVID-19 within the last 90 days. So last year, if you were a close contact, it was an automatic 10-day quarantine. The new workflow now is if you're in close contact, we apply exemptions. If you meet any one of those 4 exemptions, then the staff or the student is therefore exempt from testing and quarantine. Next slide, please. If a close contact, if someone is a close contact, doesn't meet the exemption, and is asymptomatic, we have now what's called test and stay. So students with parental or guardian consent and staff will test for 7 consecutive days with the rapid antigen test. I can tell you right now that as of 1 p.m. this afternoon, as a district, we have 24% of our students have received parental or guardian consent across the district. In the elementary level, it's at 30%. The middle school is 18%, and the high school is 19%. Dr. Crowley and the principals have continued to push the consent form out to parents, so they have multiple opportunities to consent. So in that situation, there would be test and stay. If there is no consent, or the individual chooses not to test on a rapid antigen test, then they will have to quarantine for at least 7 days. They could return on day 8 with a negative test taken on day 5 or later. Otherwise, they can return on the 11th day of school, the 11th day of their quarantine after being out 10 days. Obviously, if a close contact is symptomatic, whether you're vaccinated or not, you can return to school after a negative PCR test and no fever for at least 24 hours without fever-reducing medications. Without the negative test, you could return on the 11th day, but your symptoms have to be improved and you have to be without fever for 24 hours. Obviously, if someone turns positive in that time period, it's a whole new workflow. So these are the new testing and quarantine protocols that we're dealing with and have been dealing with over the past several weeks since they've come down from the state level.
And just for the committee's information, Denise Denizio, who's at the Harold Wyman, is acting as nurse leader right now, and so she's been on multiple. She's in daily contact with both Bob and I, but also at the state. They have multiple webinars to kind of make sure that we are up to date with all of the information that we need to follow. And this is the last slide, I believe, but the important updates. I started with this, and I just, again, want to end. We are going to have HEPA filters in every classroom. I think 555 was the number. And so, again, gratitude for that, to make that happen. NRT National Guard DESI. So for those of you that have watched the news over the last 24-hour cycle, NRT is one of our vendors. In fact, someone came and spoke to the committee. They have a driver shortage that is not just a Woburn driver shortage. I think they're a few hundred drivers short right now, with a couple hundred in the pipeline. Governor Baker mobilized the National Guard effective yesterday. He announced it. And so we have a call in to DESI to have Woburn utilize the National Guard to meet the driver shortage in Woburn. And so, in fact, I just got a call while sitting here from Desi.
Do you want to take it?
The trick is that the NR, not trick, but the reality is that NRT, we contract through SEAM with NRT, and so we have to figure out how to negotiate an MOA through SEAM for the Woburn Public Schools, and so we're working on that. That was in the works today. So I can't promise that it's going to be fixed overnight. I apologize to the family that the transportation's been a problem for. It really, it's outside of our control, but it doesn't make it right. And I'm not shy to say that I wish it were better, and I want it to be better. And we're working to try to make it better as fast as we can. And that being said, North Suburban Transportation is our transportation company that we contract with directly. Like I said, the first day made me nervous because of the weather, but it didn't rain in the morning. The first couple days, we had some hiccups because it's a timing thing. People don't know how long traffic will take. Montvale Avenue can be 10 minutes or 25 minutes. So the drivers need to learn their routes. The students need to know when to be outside to get picked up. And at the end of the day, the dismissals, particularly at the elementary level, we've had to tighten that up. Every kindergarten and I believe K-2 student now will have a bus tag so that kids are absolutely getting where they need to so that they can get home safely. Today, it was day 4, and we got an all clear at 3:30. That's the earliest we got an all clear. So, it's improving every day. It's not unusual to have transportation issues during the first few weeks of school. North Suburban is fully staffed. North Reading isn't. So we, again, are trying to work through that. So publicly want to just acknowledge that and thank people for their patience, but know that we're doing everything that we can do to get their students safely back and forth to school. So I will close with that comment and happy to take any questions that people may have.
All right, thank you, Dr. Crowley. Just want to make a clarification. North Reading Transportation is specialized transportation, special education, and North Suburban is the general yellow buses. So just to, clarify. Wait, do you want to take a sip of water?
No,
Okay. Dr. Wells.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. A lot of issues were discussed. I have a bunch of questions, but I'll do a set and kind of go in the order in which you gave the presentation. So I was thinking you had the questions that you asked the staff, your leadership team, and then you're going to bring it out to the staff and then to the community. But I think also you might want to distribute it to the school committee, collect our responses so that we can get feedback. So we can see how we're all, whether we're on the same page or whether we're not, and hash out why and so forth. So that seems like a good idea. I had a question about using the Wyman School, the Harold Wyman, seeing those adults sitting in the small. So I don't know whether that's the best situation. Thinking going forward. It looked sort of uncomfortable. Maybe it wasn't.
Well, we wanted to showcase our newest school.
They weren't in that room for very long.
They were in smaller chairs.
You went to preschool.
Down in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Real tiny ones.
Then I had a question, Ms. Young, about the books. You said they weeded, so I assume that means they harvest and dispose of. So what happened to the books or that were weeded out, I guess?
I would have to defer to Ms. Judkins a little bit more, and I think Mr. O'Connell can probably speak to the process that they use for weeding through.
In terms of our new policy, all of those books were presented to me. Not all the books, but
He read them all. I just wanted to make sure if the policy's been followed.
the
fine.
policy has been
Yep.
followed. There was no salvageable value of those books.
Okay.
You're talking about our disposal policy that we just
Yes,
enacted.
that's disposal
Okay.
policy. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Wells.
Yep. So I'll stop and then come back, so we'll give other people, because that's sort of the first path of the...
All right, Dr. Wells' first segment of questions. All right, good to know. Anyone else? Okay, I think we're sticking to the topic of leadership. Well, I don't know, maybe not. Okay, Mr. Lipset, have at it.
You mentioned looking at social emotional health for staff as well as students, and I know we've really built up our support for students in social emotional learning. I wonder what, if any, resources exist for staff who might be struggling, and how those issues might be handled, or whether that came up.
Well, we don't, I'll let Dr. Baldessari answer that. I mean, through the HR department, an array of resources available to staff, depending on what issues do come up. I don't know.
Obviously, we have a system through HR that we can get employees into employee assistance very easily. And specifically, when major things go on in the schools, we have brought in consultants to work with our staff, particularly when they've lost a colleague or there's a particularly challenging situation at the schools. So aside from just the regular supports that probably most districts have in place, we also have brought in others. And sometimes, some of our veteran staff serve as mentors and provide good service to their colleagues. We all kind of work together when the wagons need to be circled, so to speak.
Thank you. And speaking to the READY initiative, so what's the current status of the DEI director that we're sort of sharing with the senior?
Yeah. Great question.
Yeah.
We met her this afternoon.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Genuinely, her name is Miss India Barros, and she came and met with Dr. Baldessari, Ms. Young, and myself this afternoon to kind of just meet each other in person and talk through some ideas. So it's shared with 6 other districts, and so trying to figure out how to utilize her skills in the best way possible.
And that might be, I think, a future agenda item as well once we get there. It would be great to have her come in and speak at committee.
Thank you, Mr. Lipset. Okay, I'll make note of that.
That's all I have for the leadership
Okay,
retreat.
Ms. Cormier.
Thank you. Regarding the test and stay, are we up and running with that? Are all the schools?
The schools now have tests. We have enough tests to do that, but according to Mr. Alcanada just now, only 24% of students have consented. So we need consent before we can do that. So hopefully, I'm having principals at back to school nights push it out again. We're doing our best to try to get the message out.
Incidentally, regarding back to school nights, it seems that the word of back to school nights has been slow to come out. And I don't know if people were waiting because of the scheduling concerns, but some parents learned last night or tonight that the back to school night is this Thursday for the elementary. Is there usually is it on the calendar, or?
It's on the calendar that's been published since the spring.
Right,
So-
that we went over.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
All right, and then, so the desks are 3 feet apart, as DESE has required. Is that accurate for all of the classrooms?
Yeah, I'm saying we're endeavoring 3 feet apart.
Right.
Because I can't guarantee that every single classroom is 3 feet apart. We could when we were in cohorts, when we had half the number of students in the rooms.
Right.
So I believe that to be the case in the majority of our classrooms.
And I know we got some other emails about airflow, and it's amazing about the HEPA filters for every classroom. So is there anything, like if parents wanted to, I know there was talk about fundraising or donations. I know when Ms. Van Deventer came, I think she was talking about having 2 per room and the change of airflow, the air changes per hour. Is there any way that we can ensure that that's what we're getting? Because DESE had said 4 to 6, I believe, is what we want for airflows, air change per hour.
So I think at the Malcolm White, if I'm not mistaken, The HEPA filter puts us at 4.5
Okay,
exchanges per.
from 2.3 or
Right.
something that they had before. And I know.
I mean, just,
Yeah.
the committee could decide to hire a mechanical engineering firm if it really wanted to. That would be the answer to.
To
measure.
determine,
Yes, it would have to be a mechanical engineered measure.
or, I've also seen in some emails from parents about the CO2 detectors. Is
Yep,
that something,
or
do we have
installing
that? Or is-
those.
What's that,
Yes.
sorry?
Or installing those. Yep.
Okay, and those are not, I know in my house, that's part of my fire alarm system, but that's
I think
not.
that's carbon monoxide.
That is carbon monoxide, thank you. So, I
Definitely
don't.
of those.
Also good. So the CO2 detectors, I wonder, I don't know how expensive those are, if that's something we could look into as well, just to, might be cheaper than a mechanical engineer coming in to evaluate classrooms. So, just curious, just want to put that out there. And then that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Kissel?
On that point of the CO2 detectors, if that's an option, I mean, these are things that would go off when the levels are, so I mean, is that something we want? You know, obviously, but maybe look at another option. Because, I mean, these alarms are going to go off, these kids are going to freak out, not knowing what that means, and being told it means that the air is bad or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure if alarms go off. I actually don't know
They do.
what.
I mean, I have one in my home for
the-
my heating system.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
That's monoxide. Okay.
Yeah, the CO2 ones would just monitor and they'd have a level and it'd be read by the janitors and things like that. So they could get,
As long as it's not allowed.
Well, I can say this, that we have a safety committee that meets weekly, and generally, last year, every week, we got together, I, on behalf of the school committee, teachers, the nurses, once in a while, special educators would come in, and we would discuss ongoing safety issues. So that could be a topic we could bring to that committee to see if it would make recommendations to the full committee. We would like that.
There is the policy safety subcommittee, though, right?
Policy safety committee.
Well, your policy safety. This was the
This is
joint
just safety?
labor safety committee.
Okay, I'm just saying, I mean, if it's some issues, we can bring it up in policy
Oh,
and
yeah. Oh,
safety.
you're saying, you know what? Yes.
Yeah,
You can
just saying.
also do it at
Little
policy and
redundancy
safety.
to have a,
Yeah. But I think,
unless
I
we
mean,
split it.
I'm sensing that the school committee wants to keep this on the radar and definitely keep it alive as a topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Wells?
yeah, but bring it to safety, you have to have some idea what you want to do. Like if we're just going to collect information, that's one thing.
Yes.
But usually if you collect information, you're looking to act upon that. It's not clear to me, what we could do, and it seems to me the most important factor is, are people getting infected in the classroom? And I think we're going to find out shortly, and that's, it's not really, I don't think people are worrying there's too much CO2 in the classroom.
Right. It's because CO2 might
I
also
understand,
relate.
but I'm saying.
Yes. I'm just letting you know that I know.
Yeah, I know. 'cause
I'm impressed.
But what I'm saying is, that's not, the parents aren't worried about the CO2 levels. They're
That's
worried
right.
about the safety of their children from the virus. And that's the ultimate thing that we can monitor.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is secondary to that. And so I think, we could, why don't we take a look at what's happening in the classrooms over the next couple of weeks. We're putting in the HEPA filters. And then
Step
we can,
one. Yep,
and then we
new
can
layer.
see that. But I think if we're going to do things with the mechanical parts of the building, that's a long-range project. It's not going to something that's going to happen overnight. And so I think, to alleviate fear, let's watch what's happening in the classroom, and then we can decide, long-term, do we need to upgrade the mechanical systems? As opposed to, where we're talking about it's going to be a short-term thing. I think people might get the mistaken impression that, we start talking about it, and then tomorrow, they're going to upgrade the mechanical system, and that's obviously can't happen.
That's right. Well, we're adding a new layer of HEPA filters.
Right.
And so then we can just keep CO2, we can just keep mindful of it, see if we actually do need to install CO2 mechanics in classrooms.
If I could just comment.
Yes, of course, Dr. Crowley.
It doesn't mean that it won't happen or can't happen, but since last April, when we came back, we have not seen, COVID exists. We're not seeing it spread in schools the way that everyone was afraid that it would a year ago at this time. We cohorted in the smaller numbers. but even last spring. And I think it's a credit to some of the other mitigation factors. So I mean, I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't pretend, and it could change. So I don't want to dismiss any idea, but again, I just want to be clear, we haven't seen COVID spreading in schools the way that, candidly, that we were probably all very concerned about.
Madam Chairman, I think it'd be good to remind the public that when this issue about ventilation, last year, if I recall correctly, we had people come in and make sure that our systems are operating as efficiently as they can.
Yes.
And so, I think that, again, adds this idea that if we need to, if we're going to change the ventilation thing, we're going to have to spend money long-term to do this, and it's not going to be a quick thing. It's not like they could come in and recalibrate our machines and they'd be working better, because my understanding is that that's what was done, last year before all of this started, before we had children come back into schools.
Yes, I think that school committee reacted to some of the concerns in the community because we want to keep schools safe and we don't want anyone to feel afraid to walk into the building. And I think that's why Ms. Chisholm suggested the investigation to keep the filters and why Mayor Galvin is approving the DOE. Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Cormier, did you have more?
Yeah, just regarding that, so, the carbon dioxide monitoring, it's not like we're changing, this is something you just plug in or however they work, and you could get, even if it was one per school and kind of move it around if there's somebody who wanted to, just to keep you, like, peace of mind, knowing that we have the help of, but what metrics are we looking at? So people start getting sick, like, that's too late as far as I'm concerned. Do you know what I'm saying? So we put the HEPA filters in, and you say, well, let's see how that goes.
So you would have one person testing all of the classrooms
Or
every day.
however you want to do it. It's $200 for one of these things.
What would be the level? What would be the critical action level? Because that's usually why you put things, monitoring things.
I'm not familiar with the product.
I don't know if there's a critical action level. Obviously there's ones where you need to have fresh air, you don't want carbon dioxide, but I'm not sure what the action level is that you would say, it's 59%, I'm just making something up, that's okay, 60%, it's bad. Usually it's a subtle difference.
Apparently in Cambridge, they're using 800 ppm.
Yeah.
That would require immediate corrective action.
It varies with the amount of
It
people.
varies with
Right.
size of
How
children,
size of the
the
room.
size of the room.
Students.
But I think it's not a bad idea. I don't know who would be
Spearheading this type
who would
of-
do it,
right.
and how would they time it? These
Right.
are
No, absolutely. No, it's
questions
a
that I'm thinking
logistical,
about.
with 555 classrooms.
So it'd be like, but it's not on the agenda.
Just something
so-
to consider.
But yeah, I think it's a great thing to keep in our minds.
Want me to throw it to resources, Madam Chairman?
I
Great
think-
idea.
Yeah, then we
Okay.
can tease out these issues
Okay.
and
Yeah.
see if there's a viable plan.
Another meeting on the 22nd.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Mrs. Chisholm.
I just, on the back to school night, I think there was just some concern because Thursday happens to be a Jewish holiday. So some parents were concerned that they're not going to be able to attend. So I'm sure that if they wanted to attend and they're planning on attending, I think most teachers either do some little, not a syllabus, but something about the class that they can send home with the kids that might be taking that day off to have their Jewish holidays. And I'm hoping that we make sure that those don't happen again. And it happened, it was a mistake, and we'll make sure that it doesn't happen again. I'm sure that the people that are on our staff that are Jewish and are going to have their Jewish holiday, they can take a personal day, whatever they need to do. But that was on that, just so that people don't think that we just do this on purpose and don't understand and whatever. But on the mask breaks, are those just only when the kids go outside, or I thought we were going to have them like while they're in school? Do they have them then too? Like if they're sitting at their desks and taking a test, can they pull the masks down, or how does that work, or how?
It's preferable outside or when they're at least 6 feet apart.
Okay,
So if they're at desk 3 feet apart,
they still have to wear their mask.
mask should be on.
Okay,
Obviously the younger the,
it's harder to be.
yeah, so, but we're encouraging, same as last spring, I mean.
Right, I just did, somebody had asked, like, do they
Yeah,
take
no,
off during the day
yeah,
when they're
fair enough,
outside, or,
right, yeah.
I know at lunch or whatever, but I just, I think it's good, and I think that we'll be doing okay. Vaccinations are up. Kids weren't vaccinated last year. Staff was not vaccinated last year, so I think we all need to take a deep breath, and hopefully this will get better. I mean, and I'm sure the admin and all the teachers will pay attention to the numbers, and if something needs to be directed, I'm sure Dave Dunkley will be on top of it. And I have full, support that we have people that are paying attention to all the things that need to be done in our buildings. So.
Thank you, Ms. Chisholm. Anything else? Mr. Lipset?
Just because Mrs. Chisholm brought it up, the issues surrounding back to school night and Yom Kippur, I'm wondering if maybe curriculum subcommittee could look at equity issues around holidays and what we're asking families to do on holidays, and try to sort of think about what kind of accommodations we might be able to make.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, would that be better for policy? Because I think we do have something that says, certain, homework should be, things like that. So there may also already be some policy involving that, and that might, flow better. Less work for curriculum.
Okay, thank you. All right, so policy can look at holiday issues and school activities. Yes. Dr. Wells?
Yeah, so I had a couple of other things. Could we get a list of the new staff?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Now, if staff refuse to do the test and stay, that would be 7 days. They couldn't be in the classroom. I'm not sure. The COVID rules, I know there were certain rules last year about, if people were in close contact, they weren't counted as, against their sick time and so forth. And I know we added an additional day this year, but how does that work? If, say, they refuse the test and stay?
So you're right, Dr. Wells. If a staff member refuses to test,
Yep.
then they would be out at least 7 days. They could come back on the 8th day, assuming they have a negative COVID test. Otherwise, they would have to stay out 10 days and come back on the 11th day.
Right, but how is that counted?
The timeout. There is no legislation. There's no longer any federal legislation. Last year was FFCRA, I believe, was the acronym. There is no federal legislation that they have 10 free days, so it would count as an absence and presumably would be coming off their sick time.
Okay. So we might want to clarify that with the so everybody's on the same page before. Hopefully it won't happen. Hopefully we won't have to use it, but that way there's no confusion. Okay. Windows. You talked about windows being open. Is that at the discretion of the teacher? How's that happen? Because I'm seeing a lot of emails about people asking teachers to open windows and things like that. Is there policy or is it discretionary?
It's discretionary to the teacher.
Okay. But I think you talked.
It's highly encouraged.
Okay.
But
Okay.
if it's
Okay.
windy, there's any number of reasons.
That's fine.
but,
Yeah. Okay.
How about buses?
Bus windows should be open.
Should be, or,
I think they
They have to be
required.
open. Yeah.
so we get rain and all that, so.
Yeah.
Snow coming in.
Um,
Kids will get pneumonia, but they won't.
So I understand how we're gathering vaccination data for staff. You just explained that. If going down the road, we're looking at that 80% vaccinated in a building, how are we depending upon the city's numbers, or are we going to, gather more information? Because the city obviously doesn't reflect necessarily every child. It's the general population of children. Some may go to the schools, some may not, and things like that.
Yeah, so I think we'd handle it probably in a similar fashion, where the school nurse would become the point of contact for the students as well. I envision sort of a cross-check between what the city has and the school roster is, because to your point, like the 12 to 15, or more likely the 16 to 18,
Right.
they might be at Essex Aggie,
Right.
but it might be in this, so
Right.
we'd have to figure out more specifically who would fall into that category.
And we should think about that because, it won't be too long before we're reaching that date where we're going to evaluate that situation again.
Right.
Okay. With regard to the approximately 5% unvaccinated staff, Were you talking about teaching staff or staff in general?
All staff.
All staff. What are we doing to, I know we have a policy, but do we have a deadline when this you have to be vaccinated or have the exemption?
They were supposed to have submitted it by Monday, yesterday.
Okay.
And so we've tracked people down this week and test on Friday.
Okay. So we'll get a report next meeting, compliance with the policy. Okay. Then I had a question about, I noticed the state's going to start reporting, on a weekly basis from school. Can you explain, what is going to be reported to the state from the perspective of the school so people know?
They want to know who's positive, students and staff. It's the same reporting as last year. They initially last spring had said they weren't going to do that anymore, and they changed their minds.
Okay. Because it wasn't clear to me whether they were, whether they only wanted to know the exposures in the schools. It wasn't clear to me whether the state reporting was if it's a student, but they didn't necessarily couldn't trace it back to the school. Like say a student got sick on the weekend and didn't come to school, whether that would be reported or not. But you think, yeah.
I think it was. I
mean, I
remember
think
asking that
last
question
year.
before.
Last year we reported
With everybody,
remote cases.
regardless.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even
Okay.
virtual academy students,
Yes.
we were
Okay.
reporting. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Anyone else have any questions for Dr. Crowley, administration?
I just have one more quick one.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Regarding lunches outdoors, I know we've had some schools be able to sort of have regular lunches outside. I wonder if that's something that all schools have been able to do, or what some of the barriers for that might be.
I'd say every school's composition works a little bit differently. To the best extent possible, everyone's trying to utilize outdoor space.
I think part of it has to do with the size of the playground too.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if you have kids eating and then at the playground at the same time, and so there's some space, some of those variables.
One quick one that
Sure, Ms.
he
Cormier.
actually reminded me. So you were saying bus tags, so kids know which bus to get on for the little guys?
Right.
Do we don't have assigned seating anymore?
No.
Do we still have the spacing that we had last
No.
year? Okay, so it's a full 2 kids on each bench?
Most buildings, elementary buildings opt for assigned seating,
Right.
even though it's not required. Most buildings pre-COVID.
It's not Carrie doing it anymore. It's,
Yes, no, I was going to say most buildings just for riding the bus home do assigned seating pre-COVID. Not everyone, but it's a general practice.
very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Wells, did you have any further questions?
Yeah, this is
I just rolled my eyes at him. Full transparency. I'm sorry.
No,
I apologize
this
for
was
that. Hurt her eyes.
a traditional question. How are we doing for classroom sizes, and how are we doing for students coming back in terms of numbers?
Yeah, so the numbers are still shaking out a little bit.
Okay.
We'll know
Yeah.
more in a couple weeks.
Yep.
I feel like we've had a lot of enrollments over the summer,
Yes.
and so it feels like we have anecdotally more students than we did last year. Particularly last year, we had the 500 plus virtually. Class sizes, we're keeping a close eye on all of those, and I believe that we are, we're well within our contractual limits.
And no problems with vacancies, teaching vacancies, everybody,
Yeah, so we do have a couple special ed psychologists that we are actively advertising for, but that's the vacancy that pops right to mind. But classroom instructors, I think we are well-staffed.
All right.
Congratulations from the school committee on opening day. We did it. You did it.
And Ms. Mulrennan,
Thank you,
anything
Madam
else?
Chair. Again, to Dr. Wallace's comment about, congratulations on day 4, and everything else that we did, and I know Dr. Crowley will say it's a team effort and everybody put it together, but I think this document, this presentation this evening belongs on the Woburn Public School website as soon as possible. I don't know if the public knows what happened to make these 4 days happen. And the 40 or so additional staff, the HR, the benefit package that Bob introduced to the people, the programs that Mike's presented to the new staff, that is probably just unique to Woburn. The curriculum gets-togethers and, meet and greets to the new staff again, as well as the old staff. We're getting new books, we're getting new curriculum because of this. I think the public has to know that school, and again, Dr. Crowley, no one just flipped the switch and school opened the other day. A lot had to go into it, a lot did go into it by a lot of people, and a great effort by all. Again, congratulations to everybody that was behind that. And please, I'm not sure who it is, probably Jen Jenkins, but we can get this on the Woburn Public School website so that the folks can, just scroll through it and see this vital information. Obviously the COVID information is very, very important. The HIPAA filters are very, very important, as is the presentations and the readings and the education that our staff went through just to get to day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. So if we can just get that out there, Madam Chair, through the administration, I think that'll be, again, a credit to the entire school population. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Mulren. And I also note that the responses from the new teacher orientation were extremely positive. I also note, because it caught my eye, that special education was included in the orientation, and that seemed, for this one commenter, to be different than her previous district. And I think it's important, important progress towards inclusion, to make sure that special education does not exist on its own. It's actually part of the school system itself, and I just want to commend you on that. And also for the leadership retreat, just doing all of that work, all of the positive collaboration work that's just going to flow down to our students and really start off the year in a positive way. So, I love the way you did the strategic plan in 2018, so I'm really excited to see how it generates out of that, because that's what we do here, is we plan, we make long-term visionary plans. So thank you for that. All right, anything else? Okay, so I just want to reiterate that, in case it got lost in the shuffle, the CO2 monitors, what in the logistics contained therein, are going to go to resources for study.
We'll do the whole thing, the air flow, everything.
And Ms. Cormier, you're on that subcommittee?
No.
Oh, you're not, okay. So you can just tease out what the feasibility are in looking at these things. And
we'll talk to Mr. Dunkley and get more information and get his input on this. And
thank you. And of course, it's a public meeting, so Ms. Cormier was interested in the topic, can always go.
Absolutely.
And then policy is going to look at holiday issues and back to school. And I think I agree with Ms. Chisholm that we apologize on behalf of the school committee for approving a calendar that had Yom Kippur on it. My husband being Jewish, I should have caught that. All right, moving on to subcommittee reports. Finance, Mrs. Chisholm.
Yes, we met 3 times over the summer break. I'll try to go through these really quickly. We met on June 29th with Assistant Superintendent Bob Alpinato, Patty McKinnon, Dave Dunkley, Andrew, Dr. Wells, and myself. And we had been got the permission by the committee to approve these bills and pay them over the summer so we can keep our doors and lights on. Doors open, lights on, and bills paid. The warrant number 1 was for $223,148.29. Warrant 2 was for $236,109.37. Warrant 3 was for $57,907.90. Warrant 4 was for $103,860.108. Warrant 5 was for $1,025,328.99. Warrant 6 was for $347,774.69. Warrant 7 was for $140,418.13. Motion was made that we approve the bills to be sent to the full committee, and we would need approval for those now.
Motion.
Here we go. Second is all in favor? Aye. Yeah. You paid bills?
I'm sorry. We're paying all of those things that you just said.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. But I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
They've actually all been paid.
Any
Yeah, but they have to bring the full
Right,
committee.
right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So they've already been paid. We're just
Yeah.
triple checking. Okay. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Chisholm.
And since a lot of this is kind of old news, but we had Dave Doctor there, and he spoke on the need to have our feasibility study, and he took the members on the tour of the library and the new second little curriculum board,
Curriculum office.
over here done. And so and Jen Junkins had talked about having us, allowing the students access to the library in the morning, so it will get even more use when they're in here for the breakfast meal. So that was kind of, we approved 4 journal entries, $720 was for EL to Title III, $783 for SPED to Title IV grant, $218,385.89 out of district tuition, then went to a grant, and $2,160,414 was the circuit breaker on the district account, and we adjourned at 8:25 that day. We met on July 23rd, pretty much the same people in attendance. I received the list of the bills, and we questioned some of them. We got our questions back from Patty McKinnon and the administration. Discussion was on the payment to North Suburban while the students were not in school, but according to the contract, we had to go and pay that. And we talked about the summer school where we had staff that was getting paid, and maybe that could become part of that payroll instead of being a stipend outside of that. And we questioned the food expenses for staff at certain schools, just to make sure that all schools spend their money the same, so that maybe during budget time we could add that as a line item instead of principals, just certain principals paying for certain things and others not, so it's fair across the board. And discussion was on the AP proctors, and would it be financially better to have substitutes, and there was going to be some follow-up on that. We had some updates from Dr. Baldessari on all grants, and Patty spoke on the lunch debt for like the 18th monthly time. Then we paid warrant 1 was for $2,285,217.61. Warrant 2 was for $183,052.36. Warrant 3 was for $102,801.27. And we made a motion to pay all these bills, so it's being brought to the full committee now.
Okay, do you have a motion to approve those bills?
Right.
Motion to approve.
Second. I have a second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes.
And then we met again on August 23rd, because we just had the hardworking committee. Again, we received our bills in advance. The questions were submitted, and motion was made to approve all the bills. Warrant 1 was $447,471.12. Warrant 2 was for $2,473,813.39. Warrant 3 was for $265,613.74, and warrant 4 was for $171,520.79. So we need a motion to pay those, or?
Okay, we have a motion to approve
Motion.
those. Second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes.
Very
Then we
good.
talked about the lunch debt, which is now off the books, but the balance is going to be carried forward with the hope that families will pay the balances still owed. The balances of those that with TSI collection is $7,364.44 with a total of 35 families. So we're getting there. And Jen Junkins came and discussed the repair and replacement insurance for the devices that students will be carrying back and forth to school. This is an optional insurance that families may choose to carry for a cost of $25 to $28, I'm not sure what it actually came out to, per year per device. This will enable any device to be repaired without any additional cost to the families. If the device was damaged for any reason, they can come to the Joyce Middle School and swap it out on the same day. And if families choose not to carry the insurance, then the tech department will try repair in-house, but the cost would be to the family. The cost of a screen, she was telling us, is $100, and the cost would be minimally $50 and up to $260 to repair it, and a total loss of computers around $400. So it's a wise investment I would think, for any family to do that. The monies collected from that will go into a revolving account, and the cost of repairs would come out of that for parts. And so the benefit of covering these devices to families is no deductible, no dealing with insurance company, and the outreach to the parents at the beginning of the school. They'll be at the back-to-school nights, and I believe letters may have been sent home because I know some people have already paid for it. And there was one journal entry from last year to this year, and that was approved. And the hirings that took place over the summer were discussed, and the salaries are all within the approved budget. And that adjourned to 8:45, and that wrapped up summer adventures.
Okay. Mr. Kissel, did you have a question?
I'll make a motion to accept that, whatever. I want a question on the $28. That was for repairs, but then you mentioned full replacement was $400. So does it also cover like a loss? Does it cover full damage completely?
Yes.
Can't be replaced?
Mhm.
It covers all the
Yeah.
full loss as well.
Yep.
They happen to lose it
For
or
no
get
question,
stolen.
she said they wouldn't even question why, because some of them come back completely
Okay.
not dropped from the kitchen table. But
Okay, great.
So,
I was going to make a motion, but I guess I didn't have to. So.
yeah.
Okay, so, all right, you got your questions answered.
Got
Okay,
it.
Mr. Kissel. Any questions for finance? Seeing none, okay, moving on to curriculum.
We will be meeting for the first time this school year on the 22nd at 3 p.m. That is a Wednesday, correct?
What is it, 22nd?
22nd is a
22nd.
Wednesday.
Sure it is.
It is.
All right, personnel, Mr. Mulrennan.
Yes, Madam Chair, the Personnel Subcommittee met a long time ago, August 4th, here at the Joyce at 8:30 a.m. A lot of the topics have already been covered by the superintendent this evening, so I'll be brief. Updating the staff, Dr. Crowley asked for the list, so we'll get a list of staff members that was asked for, and we actually had to present it to us. At that point, it was about 39 new staff. Ms. Young explained how the vacancies were being filled over the summer. Again, all taken care of, we're up and running. Some staff list distributed to the school committee members, posted jobs. Posting of the jobs listing was passed out again, jobs that were still vacant at the time back on August 4th. Superintendent presented us with that information, again, all taken care of. We had our new HR director, Mr. Brazard, in there, and she just explained how she's going to be doing things in her new office, kind of an intro from the superintendent, who she was. Again, she came before us recently as well, so we had her in for a little bit. We got a SPED update, and I don't know if Ms. Ryan passed it out the other day to SSA, but she just wanted to restructure her department. No personnel strain, reallocating some positions and personnel throughout special ed. Again, keep everything compliant, keep her regulations in check. In line with the early childhood coordinator, we'll be doing that. Balancing her caseloads through special ed. Ms. Cotton was there from SPED. CPAC, again, she listened to some of Ms. Ryan's communications, and she thought that the communications was key throughout the CPAC and getting information out to the parents through CPAC. And the other topic we brought up at that point from Ms. Chisholm was the revisiting the substitute kind of situation where we have substitutes that have been with us for a long time. So we're going to ask the administration to kind of look into maybe realigning the substitute line items in our budget as far as what they do for us. And our meeting adjourned at 9:15 that morning. So anybody have any questions?
I have a question for the
Ms.
chair.
Cormier.
Would it be appropriate for Ms. Boyajian to come to the school committee? I know Judy O'Neill used to when she was in that position.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Ellen, can I just ask,
Of course, Ms. Chisholm.
how are we as far as for like lunchroom monitors and?
So we do need, if you're available.
They were putting it in another newspaper.
Yeah.
Let me know the days. No,
Just if you can use this time to kind of somebody.
So we genuinely are still looking for lunch monitors.
Okay.
I'm not sure the exact number, but some people didn't return. And then we did reach out to the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA because they partnered with us last year, but they are also understaffed at this point. So we're continuing to advertise for those positions.
We just, it went back out into the paper. We're looking for lunch monitors at 5 of the elementary schools.
There we go.
Thank you, Ms. Young.
So, and the before and after school, is there any update on that? I know that there was some.
Yep. So, I mean,
Yeah, so, and it'll probably be mentioned in SSA, as of this moment, the YMCA is short 16 staff, and the Boys and Girls Club are short 4 staff. So the openings of the after-school programs are graduated, starting with the Malcolm White, and then moving across as they get, they have to find great people to work with our kids. One bright spot or silver lining is that for the 21st Century grant that we have, we will be hiring 5 recreational assistants that they'll be hired by the YMCA, but the 5 assistants are going to be 5 high school students who are, at the end of the day, just going to walk over to the Malcolm White, and they're going to have a job working with our 21st Century students after school.
Okay, so will the other schools be opening soon? I
Yeah,
know.
as soon, it's just a matter of,
Right.
they have to have personnel.
Yeah, okay.
so it's a personnel issue. So
It's everywhere.
beyond the clubs, internally, for example, I know that The Pearl Wyman, I think Ms. Maloney's trying to get that up and running, but if we don't have staff
Right.
ready, willing, and able to work, we can't do it. So we're doing our best to get that moving.
Dr. Baldessari, might these students, our recreational assistants, also be early childhood educated, interest in that area?
Yeah, their students are participating in different programs at the high school that actually really
Yeah.
have to earn their hours, so they're actually going to be able to be paid to earn their hours. Yeah, we've identified 3 students so far, 2 to go.
And that could also be a way to, recruit new
Yes.
teachers.
It's funny to say that.
Diverse backgrounds.
Yeah, we have a grant opportunity that we're looking at to fund a pipeline trying to develop our kids to become teachers.
Yes.
And I'll know more about that before the end of the month.
Thank you, Dr. Baldessari. Sorry to deviate.
Yep.
Okay, anyways.
Policy.
Policy and Safety Subcommittee, Mr.
Yes,
Kissel.
we have not met. We will be meeting with the new celebration of holidays policy and looking at working that. But I also got a correspondence this week, September 13th, actually, from Dr. Baldessari about a policy which is JICFB. Has 2 slight changes. It's the Bullying Prevention and Intervention Plan. On page 5, at the end of the paragraph, the insertion of the Massachusetts regulation. And on page 8, the removal of the word improvement in the second to last paragraph. Those are the only 2 changes in the policy manual. And the suggestion was...
Yeah, since there's no substantive change, I made the changes, and the policy is exactly as it was written. It just was advised by council that we have those citations.
Okay, so we're just adding the law
Yeah.
and then the word.
There was an extra
Taking
word.
Taking the word.
Okay, do you want us to act on that?
Well,
It'd be,
yeah, it's just
Okay.
because it's a policy. There's very minute. There's no, but it is a change to the language. So
and it has substantial impact on students to have the right.
yes.
Yeah. So do I have any action on that?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the changes of just adding the law in one word. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I don't want to be a stickler, but probably have to suspend the rules because the policy normally sits 30 days on the...
Okay.
So I'll make a motion, we suspend the rules.
All right, so
For
I have a motion.
purposes
Thank
of
you, Dr.
approving
Wells,
a
by the way.
policy.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on suspending the rules?
Question on that.
Yes.
While that is what we've done, we did discuss in policy how we don't actually have a policy that says that. So I'm curious if that's something that's documented anywhere as far as the tabling for 30 days, because we had discussed it, whether, was it supposed to be that we gave people notice and then we had a meeting to discuss it and then we, do you know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, it may not be in policy, but it may be, and again, I don't know, it could be in Robert's rules because that's our backup, how we do things.
Right.
And, as we always say, it's a past practice.
Yeah.
But we will be, as we move on,
Yep.
we have a number of policies
Yeah.
where there will be very minute
Right.
changes that don't really necessarily warrant, all that time. It's something to consider.
All in favor?
Aye.
The rules have been suspended, and do I have any action, I'm sorry, have any action again on the policy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
And do I have any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. All right. Thank you, Dr. Wells, and thank you, committee members, for your patience. Moving on to Resource and Capital Planning Subcommittee, Dr. Wells?
Yeah, we're going to be meeting probably on the 22nd.
Okay.
I'm thinking probably 4:30-ish to discuss the issues that we have talked about previously. I did want to take this opportunity to ask the administration, it's my understanding that we have to have some community input on our spending of our COVID relief funds or whatever. And have we got any details on when we're going to do that, how we're going to do that yet?
So when we submitted the grant application, it called upon me to spell out how we would be doing that with various groups of stakeholders. And I spelled out that we would be, getting information from parents via school councils, LPAC, CPAC, and I specified that it would all take place in the fall of 2021. So it's just a matter of, we're only on day 4, but
Right.
as our groups
Yeah.
come together, getting the feedback. Yeah.
So if we could put that, once you've done all the input, that's when I think we need to get the summary statement.
And the
so that we can-
implementation plan,
Yeah.
in accordance with the application, has been posted on our school's
Yeah.
website as well.
So once you get the input, then we can bring it to the committee, because then we approve how the money's used, I guess, based on the input and your recommendation, the administration's recommendation.
All right, thank you, Dr. Wells, for bringing that to our attention. Student Service and Achievement, Ms. Cormier.
Yes, we met Friday, September 10th, here at the Joyce Middle School. In attendance were myself, Dr. Baldessari, Maureen Ryan, Julie Cotton from CPAC, and Ms. Chisholm. We called the meeting to order at 9:04 a.m. For a SPED update, we are down 3 school psychologists, as mentioned previously. This, of course, is happening in other districts as well. For SSA, previously alluded to, the coordinator for physical and social emotional wellness was hired, Ms. Kendra Stinson. Provided was a resume, and Dr. Baldessari met with her and the health and wellness staff. There was some enthusiasm among the health and wellness and PE staff regarding the individual wellness plans, which already Julie Urquhart has been integrating counseling services with physical wellness already, so we're already moving in that direction. Family and Community Engagement Liaison Assistant. There were interviews held on September 3rd. We have a strong candidate, last I knew, and we're moving forward with the HR process. And Dr. Baldessari nodded his head, so that's where we're at. Also, our Family and Community Engagement Liaison, Ms. Mendez-Sheldon, will be returning to her office hours at the Woburn Public Library. They have met with Hermaine Gordon, who is now the official library director at the Woburn Public Library. And the large study room in the back will be available for Adriana to meet with families and other people that require her assistance. The Woburn Public Schools and Woburn Public Library will partner on other initiatives via the Family and Community Engagement Liaison and the Director, including continued literacy programs. Coordinator for English Learner Education and World Languages is now Erin Johnson, formerly Erin Cooper, and her resume was also provided. For the language line, on-the-spot translation service via voice and/or video, which revolutionizes communication with non-English speaking families, we have a purchase order generated, just awaiting training to be set up by Ms. Judkins. As previously mentioned, the YMCA and Boys and Girls Club are short some staff, and as soon as those staff are available, we'll continue to roll out after-school programs. Transportation to the YMCA after-school programs. Buses with available seats will transport students from their schools to the YMCA after-school programs with no additional fee from the bus company. This was also done from April to June when we opened in full last year. Also mentioned is the 21st Century Learning Program, acronym SALT, supporting additional learning time. Staffing up for school year after-school program, 5 recreational assistants appointed by the YMCA. They will be Woburn High students, paid positions, and 50 students at the Malcolm White will be doing project-based language learning. Dr. Baldessari provided the Youth Risk Behavior Survey results with over 7,000 responses for middle schools and 8,000 for high schools in Middlesex. In Woburn, we had 780 middle school responses and 881 high school responses. We recommend that it be reviewed in a separate meeting and also invite the new coordinator for physical and social emotional wellness and others to be part of the conversation. This information will also be helpful for grant writing to know what is needed in the district. Dr. Baldessari also provided the Acceleration Roadmap Pathway to Equitable Recovery, 2 editions of those, and it is a tool designed by DESE to provide focused and phased approach to supporting students in this school year and over the next several years. The priorities include fostering a sense of belonging and partnership among students and families, with funding coming from DOE, continuously monitoring students' understanding, and ensure strong, grade-appropriate instruction with just-in-time scaffolds when they are needed. The supervisors of attendance have communication enhancements. They're using Chromebooks and hotspots, as well as Google Forms. This will lead to student information being more secure, and data will be more useful and easier to access rather than them taking a little note. And would you like a cough drop, sir?
I'm good.
Okay. The William James Interface has provided us a service report from December 1st to May 31st. There were 25 reports initiated by school staff. For CPAC, the CPAC reached out to families for feedback regarding SPED busing through NRT. Concerns included missed or late pickups, which then, of course, increased anxiety and family schedule disruption. communication regarding incidents or changes, transportation, training opportunities, and length of time as a trip, as legally they cannot be over 1 hour. One parent reported no issues. Ms. Ryan stated that, of course, there is a statewide shortage. There is a 15% shortage at NRT with 38 unfilled routes. They are doing double runs, filling the buses, of course, working on solutions at the statewide level. As we just learned, the National Guard will hopefully be stepping in. But Ms. Ryan is working to keep communication open and transparent and working with SEAM. The SPED department reached out proactively to provide communication protocols, and it was suggested that in addition to having parents call specifically the SPED department versus calling them and NRT and anyone else, that also they explain these problems that maybe not everybody is aware of why these issues are happening. Ms. Chisholm had a question regarding parents driving their students. Also, making sure the phone lines aren't tied up for sort of focusing all the calls. We did discuss how the district is provided to provide transportation for special ed students, and while some families can bring their students and then be reimbursed, also some of them are quite far away, so it was better for the families if we can get them transported. And upon motion duly made and seconded, the meeting adjourned at 10:02 a.m.
Okay, any questions for SSA? No, moving on, okay, calendar dates of school committee meetings you have in front of you. Our regular scheduling cycle. So, yes, Mr. Kissel.
Just on that, on Wednesday, it's supposed to be the 29th? Just to clarify that. It says the 28th. I just want to start with that before we approve this.
Oh, okay, yep.
Thank you, Mr. Kissel.
So Wednesday is 9/2/9/21. All
Yeah.
right, thank you.
I'll make a motion, we eliminate the 11/24 meeting and the 12/29.
Yes.
Birthday?
Second?
Yep, those are
We
gone.
celebrate Mr. Kissel's birthday.
That's right.
All right.
November
Madam
9th,
Chair.
November 8th, or November...
I got one.
Ms. Chisholm, you want to
November
move?
10th, November 9th? Can we
Yeah.
change that one to November 10th, maybe, or to a
Yeah.
Wednesday?
Okay.
Is there another?
Okay, and remember, Wednesday, 10/27/21, we'll be talking about masks, so get ready. Okay, anyway.
Madam Chair, on 10/27,
Yep,
I do have a conflict on that night. I could do the 26th if possible, or the 28th, depending on members' availability.
National Honor Society on the 28th.
28th, do the 26th.
okay, how about 10/26, that's a Tuesday. All right,
Still masked? Did we have it in that we written the 27th, or?
no, it's any time before,
Before,
yes,
that's
I do remember. Okay, and,
What did we say about the 9th?
On or before?
Can I make a request?
yes, you can, Dr. Crowley.
28th, an option for that one?
What I think Mr. Kissel said is,
That's
I had it marked out as National Honor Society at the high school.
Yes.
Oh, could be,
December
sorry.
29th.
Fair enough.
the
But is
26th.
the 28th
And
better
just
for
an
you?
update on September
It is.
28th. It's
Why not do the 28th? We
Yeah,
don't- Yeah.
Yeah, but
Doesn't he go,
He's
who's
gotta
the
be there.
National Honor Society?
Yeah, I don't have every calendar right.
I mean, check to confirm, but we got an email,
But,
We did.
or it was on Twitter or something.
yeah, why don't we pick it up at the next meeting? We'll pick up that one.
For
at the
now,
next
let's,
meeting.
Okay,
what was
let's-
that, which date was that?
28th of October.
We could always do a Tuesday that week or a Monday that week, whatever.
yes.
But we're doing the 26th, or did we not decide
26th for now,
26th?
but you can.
But, no, I can't do the night of the 26th or the 27th.
All right,
Okay.
So why don't we do the 25th?
We could do the 25th.
Just make it easy.
Fine.
Thank you.
I have no night left.
That was 10/25, right?
Yes.
10/25. Okay, any other changes to this list?
December 29th is out, November 24th is out.
Madam Chairman, is there any desire besides my own to move to 7:30 as opposed to 7?
Yes, I will second that.
No, but
I wouldn't mind, I mean,
What would you
I
do?
can,
You want to move it all to 7:30?
yeah, it's,
send your questions in early
Are you serious?
at 7.
I was going to make a comment about
people, that's
Well, that doesn't work.
cutting half an hour to Dr. Wells's question time, but I'm not going to make that comment.
It would now be 9:15.
All righty.
We'll do that for the next
I'm
meeting.
I'm open to it.
I'm not,
Here and there, how's that?
My only concern is with administration.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes,
long day.
that is a long day.
Just to get home.
Well, Dr. Wells will
Maybe
bring in
every other
cookies.
meeting we could do 7:30?
No, I don't, it's just,
No, that'll mess things up. Just
yeah, it's fine.
take it as you need to.
Just a little quick, a little easier, not as stressful.
I know,
getting-
I understand.
Walk the dog faster.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I know, but I gotta remember to put my shoes, I left my sneakers on.
Well,
All right, so I have the list that we,
Yep.
11:24 and 12:29 are gone,
Yep.
and we have 10:25:21.
And we should add January 3rd, that will be
And
the
January
inauguration date, so that should be
Yep.
there.
Orientation,
Is the first Monday.
organizational meeting.
Yep.
that'll be-
January 23rd is organizational, so we
Right.
have that. And then we're moving 11:09 to 11:10.
Yep.
All right, do I have any action on
Just change the date
that?
on the 9/28 to 9/29, because that was a typo. You got that one, too?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the amended calendar.
Up to
Second.
that point, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did, yeah.
Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah,
All in favor? Aye. That motion passes. That's done. Okay.
Madam Chair, can we just make sure that this is, the custodians here at the Joyce did not know that we had a meeting tonight? So let's just make sure that they get a copy of this.
They did.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, one of them didn't know. He said, whoa, you guys are meeting tonight? And so to make sure that the door is unlocked and all that.
Everyone's there.
But there
Yeah,
wasn't,
usually
but
it's-
there wasn't a copy, because we didn't, this wasn't, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to make
We
sure.
have to have a custodian. All right, so correspondence, just would acknowledge the following constituents. Sarah Witherall contacted the committee about air exchanges and pool testing. Allison Van Deventer contacted the school committee comprehensive advice about air exchanges, carbon dioxide, and general air ventilation issues. Ms. Dale Goldstein commented to the school committee on scheduling back-to-school night on Yom Kippur, as did Rena Mazur, in a negative way, that we approved back-to-school night on Yom Kippur, and we do sincerely apologize from the school committee for doing that. Jenny Tremonte contacted the school committee regarding pool testing, ventilation, and CO2 monitors. And Erica Bowden, which contacted me in a personal capacity, so I sent it over to administration. I wanted to let the committee know she had this idea to install PEC boards, PECs, which is a form of communication in which it's a visual board in which children that may have communication barriers point to various items. And so not bringing it to the committee because I didn't know if it was appropriate for administration. I sent it over to Dr. Crowley, and I think he's going to update the committee on PEC boards at our playgrounds.
Yeah, so just very quickly, PECS stands for Picture Exchange Communication System. I forwarded the idea to Maureen Ryan, and the primary goal of PECS is to teach functional communication and to develop speech. And so it's, again, pictures on a board, and I can tell you that we are putting them in at the in English, Spanish, and Braille at the Reeves and the Shamrock playgrounds for our kids. So
Awesome.
Yeah, so I, just on behalf of the school committee, we're very excited for that, and I want to thank the administration for partnering with this constituent on this endeavor as we continue to try to make our playgrounds as maximum accessibility as possible. So I think that's awesome, and a good thing to end correspondence with.
Madam Chair,
No,
one
Madam
more.
Chairman.
There was just, directly after our last meeting, Carrie Johnson had emailed us.
Okay.
It was dated the 2nd, but it came after.
Okay,
We
and
met.
I want to thank Carrie Johnson for commenting on our meeting. Oh, and that's right, she did clarify DESE FAQs that did recommend 4 to 6 air exchanges. It wasn't a regulation, it was a recommendation that also came at the same time. They recommended that no one wear masks anymore, but anyway, so I want to thank Ms. Johnson and also Ms. Van Deventer for bringing that to the school committee's attention. So I'll accept a motion to enter those into the public record.
So moved.
Motion to accept those, make it part of the permanent record through Ms. McLeod's minutes.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Aye. That motion passes. Dr. Wells?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter to Mr. McElhaney and the Leo Cubs for the excellent work they did on the 9/11 memorial, that was highlighted this past Saturday.
Second.
Really inspiring to see the children, taking an active role in fundraising. It's from what Mr. McElhaney said, the students were the ones that initiated the idea and then worked to get it. So
Yeah, that was very well
So I'll
done.
make a
Thank you,
motion, we
Dr.
send a
Wells.
letter congratulating him and his students for
Yeah,
the
a motion.
fine activity.
Sorry. Second. Gail and say. Okay, I have a motion to send a letter to Mr. McElhaney regarding the 9/11 memorial. I have a second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We can get that letter out ASAP. All right. Future agenda items. Yes, Dr. Wells.
Could we get reporting, like, from the breakdown last year regarding the seniors, where they went to, how many went to college, things like that? And could we break it down by gender too, please? And then the MASC resolutions, we just got the booklet the other day, so we'd probably put that so the committee can advise. I think, is it?
Ooh, that's
Mr.
always a good
Lipson's going this
topic.
year. Yeah, no, they didn't look that controversial.
Yeah.
They had the
Oh.
MCAS one, but that was that was one I could even support.
My God.
All right.
And then, could we get a report on, sort of the findings of the administration about educational loss because of COVID? So where we're at and what we're doing to work to, better whatever loss there was.
All right.
That's it for me.
So we do have executive session tonight for the purpose of negotiation strategy and collective bargaining. Specifically, we're going to review a proposal for the union for the cafeteria workers. So we need to do that in executive session because otherwise in public it might compromise our position in collective bargaining. So do I have a motion to go into executive
Make the
session?
motion, Madam Chairman.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, I need a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Chisholm.
Yes.
Ms. Cormier.
Yes.
Mr. Lipset.
Yes.
Mr. Kissel.
Yes.
Mr. Moran.
Favor.
Dr. Wells.
Yes.
Ms. Crowley.
Yes, so we are now moving to executive session.